So now we're going to welcome back an old friend of the show. How are you doing, Sherry?
Fine.
And delighted to know that you've managed to do a sequel. I'll just recap for people. Is it about 18 months since you were with us?
Yeah, 2008, I think.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And at that time, you had written a book called Murder on the Rocks, which was based in Youghal. And the main character was Felly, and she married a handsome Irish Garda called Kieran. And they managed to end up involved in a murder mystery, shall we say.
Yes.
Okay, so you've now written a sequel, and I love the title, Death by Chopstick. And I think that tells us a little bit about it, but it's based in China.
Yes.
So how did Felly get from Youghal to China?
Well, where we left off, Felly and Kieran were living in the houseboat of Mrs. O'Donnelly's, and she was needing to head back home, and he, of course, was madly in love with her and followed after her. So they had, when the book starts, they had been living, about a year, say, in Holland. And he was at school up in Amsterdam, back in law school, and she's teaching. And she is being pressed by her university to publish a paper that she's been putting off. So she decides that she needs a little more research and has been asked to go to China to do a module, and she feels that would be very interesting to do that. And while she's there, of course, things don't happen like she thought they would, and then she's in the middle of another murder mystery. And the characters are, as a reviewer called them, saucy cosmopolitan characterizations, with a Scottish head of department who's a bit dismal, a German researcher who's sort of crabby, and an outspoken American colleague, and a Scandinavian admirer that she starts off with in a plane from Sweden to China, and there's a bit of a mishap there. So it begins in a sort of topsy-turvy way. But I think the reason that I wanted to base it in China was because I ended up going back for a second time myself, and I love China. I love the Chinese culture, and it's still very, for me anyway, a bit mysterious, even though the people are very, very lovely. But it seems like the way they do things, the outlook is so much different than the West. And I thought how interesting it would be to set a murder mystery there with somebody like Felly, who is amateur sleuth, naturally curious, wanting to do something, and yet she feels very blocked. For example, as soon as a murder happens, things are cleaned up, and she's not able to really get to look at things and sleuth around, and she has to figure out basically how do the Chinese do it, and what's a way I can sort of look into this and see what's going on. And I think in that way I also wanted to bring out something I found very striking about the Chinese culture, which is the people themselves. They do speak out. There's a lot more freedom since the Olympics, especially. Some even protest. Unfortunately, a few had been jailed. But in the end, I think that the culture itself is very into a certain type of harmony, and I sort of liken it in a way to, if you know something about Tai Chi, in the sense where it sort of gives like the wind and is flexible, and in that way it has a stronger footing, and they seem to go about things in that manner. And so she's trying to figure out, in this very alien culture, how she can go about solving these murders. And I tried to get in a little of this very interesting to me, especially the way the Chinese look at life.
Okay, any number of questions arising from that. The first one is, obviously you've decided to set a murder mystery in China, having been there and kind of immersed yourself in the culture for a bit, which I've done as well at some point. But let's be clear, you didn't see any murder or mayhem in China while you were there, that this is in any sense autobiographical, is it?
No, thank thank God. It's pretty regulated society, so I don't think, I think that the average person going there, perhaps you felt this way yourself, feels very, very safe. So,
that's very interesting, actually, because I would have said that to people when I came back here. At no point did we feel any sense of danger, and we travelled quite extensively in China in the 15 days I was there, and there was never any sense of danger at all. So that's very true for me of China, I'd have to say, yeah.
I think the people, too, are, on the whole, just very lovely. Somebody had left their purse somewhere, and somebody went out of their way, a Chinese person went out of their way to they saw this person in my group doing this, and they went out of their way to bring it back to them, which is unheard of, like in Amsterdam or Dublin or whatever. And teaching the students was wonderful. They were very motivated and very supportive, very enthusiastic of their teachers. At first, they tended to praise us a little bit too much, and I think that sort of put us off our guard at first, because when people do that, you think, yeah, well, whatever. But they were very, very into their teachers, and that sort of kind of loving kindness and optimistic attitude just caught on, and after a while, it was really nice to be a part of it.
And just a couple of questions there, because I mean, you've touched on it in the sense that you've set a murder mystery in China, which is a culture that's kind of alien to a lot of us, and it is for me quite a soft society. So, that must have been interesting to write about, to put to place, something as, if I can use the word violent, as murder in a kind of a soft setting. So that would be the first question. But secondly, then, because you've also touched on the fact that Felly in this book finds it difficult to get access because the Chinese are quite. They cleaned up very quickly, and at certain points they're not open to questioning. So how was it to explore that, and how did you research that, or did you base it on anything concrete, or were they open enough to answer questions in that area when you were doing your research?
I think that I sort of did it situationally. I didn't really contact somebody and say, how would you go about this, because I didn't know any of the Chinese police. But like I said, I've been there twice. The first time I was there, things were very, very close. It was 2004 or 5, and even teaching, we were given a list of things that we could and couldn't discuss with the students. And back in, a year ago last, I was back, all those things could be openly discussed and were. But if something was going on, I don't want to give away a lot of the story, but something happened within the university, so she was already there. But she wasn't really, as a teacher with no rights to get involved in anything like this. She had to sort of talk to the people around her. The grapevine network is very, very strong in any culture. I was going to say in that culture, but it's in Ireland and everywhere else.
Powerfully strong in this culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so she used that, and she sort of found her way, as if you could say, inductively, through asking people and going around and just doing a little bit of sleuthing with her very outspoken American colleague, and sort of rubbing her nose in a few things and embarrassing herself along the way, but pretty much just very dogmatically pursuing it, as Felly is. She's very funny, but she's also very fastidious. And some of the kids were helping in a way that they could without, harming themselves or their place. So, it was. I can't really answer that. It's sort of a kind of going round and round in a circle until you get to the point of aha.
Yeah. So, but obviously it was fun to write from that point of view then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and obviously, I didn't realise this until I spoke to you in the build-up to this interview. You had always planned on Murder on the Rocks being a trilogy, and maybe you mentioned that to me, and maybe that should have been obvious to me from the first book, but it just didn't stick in my memory. So this is the second part of the trilogy.
Yes.
And obviously then we have people here in Youghal who have purchased Murder on the Rocks, because I do know that Read and Write stocked it for you on foot of the interview you did here in 2008, whenever it was. So there are a number of people in Youghal who've read the first part, and they're now aware, if they're listening, that the second part is available. So where can they get it? That's the question.
All right. Well, I've just finished the book, and we're putting it out at the moment. So I think the best way right now is to go to my website, ashleenbooks.nl, and that's ashleenbooks.nl, not .com.
Yeah.
And people can have a look at the website and can even download the first few chapters.
Oh, very nice.
The PDF file. And then it should be on Amazon within the month.
Cool.
And then Joan and Dora were so kind over at Read and Write Bookstore at the gift gallery. Maybe we can get some more over there.
That'd be great.
For you all in Youghal.
For you all in Youghal.
So the first, I had this idea for this 3-part series, and the first was based in Youghal. And then to carry it back to where Felly comes from in Holland. And there's a connection with the families between County Cork and also where Felly lives and works in Leiden. And the third, I want to set in Holland and bring it back to Ireland and sort of go full circle. So,
okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Have you
Wish
started?
me luck in that.
Yeah, well, have you started? Yeah.
Developing.
Have you started work on the third one, or is it? I mean, obviously, if it's just come out, then I would imagine the answer to that is no.
No, I haven't started on third. I've jotted some ideas down of some things I wanted to do, but having just finished the second one, it's like all the, if you will, gray matter has been sucked out of me.
It's an exhausting process, and you do need to rest between them as well. I mean, I know there are people out there, the likes of Stephen King, who just continually write and write, but for most people there is an element of, I need a break at some point. So you've definitely earned that break, I would say.
Yeah, I think you really need to do that. I think if you just keep writing and writing, you get rather dull, and I think you need to take a break and just enjoy life and just let it all just come back in, just kind of like just slowly, like the river flowing back into your life and washing through. And that sort of is that theme anyway in Murder on the Rocks. The river is, the water is very much a part of
well, that actually sounds lovely. So enjoy doing that, filling the well in that manner. Thank you so much for joining us again. Congratulations on finishing the second one.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely no problem. And I'm assuming we'll talk to you when the third one comes.
Okay.
Whenever that is. Take your time. No pressure.
Take care now.
Okay. Thanks a million. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.